What's up, brother? We're live, 8 o'clock, and we're back at it, prime time. You see the panel, you see the guys, Antoine Smitty Smith, Chris Titmore. We have a special guest in the building, man. Dave Cho of the Falcoholic. Dave, good evening. How are you? Thank you so much for taking time out to rock with us. I'm sorry about last week, man. Some things had to change on the fly, but we appreciate you, coming back on with us, and we hope to put out the best show we possibly can. But Dave, how are you, man?
It's always a great show with you guys. I'm happy to be here for the first time. So thanks for having me. And yeah, it's ton to talk about. It's great. Schedule's right around the corner, and I am very excited to find out more about that. I know we'll get to it. So
Yeah, absolutely. Smitty, what say you, man? What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Berto? Chris, my boy Dave, Falcoholic. Man, it's time for a great show, man. Uh, we talked before the show, man. The news is slow, but we're gonna give y'all something to talk about water cooler Monday next week. Cause
Hmm.
one thing about it, if y'all know me, y'all know I know how to blow up the internet, because that's what I do best. But
Hey, Dave.
pass
That's
to my
cool.
boy Chris, man. Chris, tell the folk what's up, man.
Hey, man. Happy to be out of school, man. Happy to have had graduation this past weekend. Having
Congratulations,
my
Chris.
Congratulations.
thank you, man,
Awesome.
bachelor's in science and sports casting. So this right here is technically my life now. So I'm just ready to get after it. Happy to be alongside Smitty, Berto, Dave. I said great to have you on for the first time. And shout out to everybody, all the calls, the texts, Facebook, Twitter messages. I really do appreciate that. And man, let's just get after it. It's the off season, but it's still plenty to talk about. So let's get into it, man. Falcons.
And
Falcons
you had
talk
a lot of practice,
TV.
so no more excuses.
Oh, oh yeah.
Put your ass in a box, Chris. Don't.
Hey, man,
But you'll be
put me
all
where-
right, Chris. You'll be all right, man.
hey, they
But
can put
man,
me whatever.
the
I'm
spring
gonna throw
forward
about a rock.
this show, man. Dave, so much talk around, involving, of course, our Atlanta Falcons. We're always in the news about something, man. And in the media's eyes, they feel as though there's problems in Atlanta. There's a possible quarterback controversy brewing, but there is no problems in Atlanta. So the first question, man, media tries to create problems in Atlanta when there are no problems in Atlanta. We saw two really good and real creative pieces from Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins over the situation. With being asked a question to Kirk Cousins about, Michael Penix being drafted and how he felt, and then Michael Penix himself, speaking to the media and, just talking out of pure maturity, man. Of course, this kid is 23, 24 years of age. We all know that, but he speaks like he's a pro already, man. Just a real down to earth kid that gets it, that understands that, he's coming in not to put any added pressure on anybody's job. He's there to learn still, but when the time is right and he's ready, he'll be ready to ball out. So, with that, it's a pretty loaded question. But what do you feel as, this whole media situation always putting the spotlight on any little situation in Atlanta, man?
it's funny. I saw like a hit that Adam Schefter did earlier today, and it was all about like this drama. It's not going away. I'm like, of course it's not going away. You're the one keeping it going.
I'm trying
Like,
to tell you.
100%. And you look at it, and like you said, I really think that the two guys that they have here are part of the reason the Falcons felt they could pull this off. It's because Kirk Cousins, I'm sure he wasn't happy. We know he wasn't happy
Hmm.
about it. He's going to handle this like a pro. He's going to downplay all these questions. He's going to, hold on to that starting job as long as he possibly can. And then Michael Penix is, like you said, he's mature. He's a smart guy. He knows what he's stepping into here. He knows he's going to have to wait his turn unless Cousins gets hurt. So the best thing for him to do is learn what he can, be a professional, and then be ready when the time comes. And the time could come week 1, week 2. The time
Uh-huh.
could come 2027. We don't know.
Yep.
But the trick to navigating this is you have to be able to shut out the outside noise. You got to be able to make everything that seems like a big deal outside of that building seem really small inside the building. And I think they're both very good at that. And I think this is why I think this is going to work. I'm a big
Right.
believer in Penix. I was
Hmm.
pretty thrilled with the pick because of that. Obviously, there's the potential for drama here. I don't, if all goes well, we shouldn't see it. I really do feel like they've handled it about as well as they possibly can.
Very cool.
Great
Very
one.
Facts.
cool.
Great one right there.
What do you got,
I mean,
Facts.
Smitty?
he was considered the number 2 quarterback in the class, so you can take that for whatever it's worth on paper. And then what people got to understand, we've been through quarterback purgatory, man. We're talking about since Matt Ryan's final season, 37 interceptions, 35 fumbles, and 22 of those going the other way. So my goodness, I'm just saying we went from having no quarterback and the worst quarterback room to going to having one of the best quarterback rooms. And let's not sleep on Kirk Cousins, because before his injury, he didn't have an injury since 2009 when he was at Michigan State. So he is durable, and we got to take that for what it's worth as well. I believe the Falcons are in a great situation. We have a guy for now, and we have a guy for later. That's our vibe right now. We now later. So
agreed. And to add on to what y'all was saying, man, I think it goes always back to this Michael Vick thing, man. And it's gonna always be that when it's at the quarterback position. And then you talk about Kirk Cousins, who pretty much was in the same situation in Washington with RG3. So now he's in another situation in Atlanta with the same problem. But the reason why the problem came up, I think, is because the media wants to paint the narrative their way, and since we didn't go their way, they're going to try to make a big deal out of it. Because everybody had us penciled in to take an edge rusher. We did take an edge rusher in the draft, but it wasn't the one that everybody wanted.
Just
so
not
now
when they want.
they're going to zero in on Michael Penix from this point on all the way up until he retires. And like Dave said, we're in a great situation. Chris said, great situation, because nobody wants to be in quarterback purgatory. You look at the last 2 years, Mariota, Ritter, not going to work in the NFL. Then you have the bad play calling on Arthur Smith. So you get that problem fixed. You bring in the guy that runs the West Coast offense that Kirk Cousins is used to and something that he can build on, and they're going to help each other. Don't forget that since he's a first-time coordinator, you got a veteran quarterback that can help you see what's on the field, that can help you grow into your new role. And by the time they get on the same page, hey, we won't even be talking about this by the end of the season. If we end this season with a playoff berth, all this is just going to be talk at the end of the day. But
and one more nugget too, real quick. You got to remember, Kirk Cousins didn't start full time in Washington until he was 27.
Right.
So when people talking about Penix may not be there till he's 26, best case, we already know that depends on Kirk Cousins' production. But Cousins himself didn't even start until he was 27 in Washington. So it's not like it hasn't happened before.
Yeah, and we're talking about a guy that, sure, like you mentioned, being relatively healthy, for the past 5 years, he has been the consensus QB1 in all the major stats, in regards to quarterback, which flips me to this next question. We know that Kirk Cousins coming off that major Achilles injury, drafting Penix, to be his possible replacement, in the near future or in the future. How much pressure is Kirk Cousins is facing already? He hasn't even hit the field yet for week one. So that has to be looming and lingering in his mind and bothering him. Do you see that affecting his play in any way, shape, or form during the season, Dave?
No, I can't see it. This is a guy, as Chris said, like unique career path, right? He was drafted to be a backup, essentially, in case something happened to Griffin. Something did happen to Griffin. He took over, became, one of the first guys to get that fully guaranteed contract, which I'm sure he loves.
Dude's a fan.
Took it to the bank. and he's been successful more or less since. And like, so, I view this as a possible bit of motivation for him. I'm sure he's going to be annoyed by it, but it's not like he's in a pressure packed situation here. Like Atlanta's been bad for 6 years now, unfortunately. So any lift he gives them at the quarterback position, we're going to love it. It's going to erase some of the criticism, and he will give them some kind of lift. I mean, we saw last year, right? So, and then to look at it from the perspective of the Falcons themselves are going to continue to bang that drum that like Penix is not the starter. Kirk Cousins is the starter. So you're always going to have people talking a little bit like that first interception, that first bad game he has. Sure. People are going to be like, is it time for Penix? But Cousins knows that's not happening. The Falcons are going to push hard against that narrative at every turn. So to me, there's no like added pressure on Cousins that means anything, right? Like the criticism is out there. The talk is out there. He knows that. He's not going to let it hit him because it's not from the people. If Terry Fontenot or Raheem Morris were like, watch your ass. Michael Penix is taking your job. You know, that would be a different story, but that's not what's happening here.
Well put.
Well
Thank
put,
you.
Chris. You have anything to add to that, Chris?
I mean, shoot, man. Dave just put it well nice for me. I mean, he just packaged it all up for me, man. And again, just going back to, I feel like we just have a great situation. I know Kurt's going to be a professional. I know Michael Penix is going to be a sponge. You hear Coach Raheem talking about that too, about how much of a sponge he is, about he tries to, gets the gist of the play, going from end to end, just trying to figure it out. And then Kurt, even himself, being the professional, language that he recognizes. And then if he doesn't, he said, hold on, let me get that again. I'm like, okay, everyone's trying to perfect the craft and get it right, because they already know that this is a big season, and the seasons moving forward are going to be big seasons for Atlanta. So let's get this thing right, man.
Yeah, I agree. And the only thing I got to add is I've been watching the interviews he's been doing since he's been here. He's been doing a great job keeping the PR nightmare down by answering the same question over and over. They asked it in a different way, but it all boils down to, what do you think about Michael Penix? And he just put it straight, and he gave the best answer possible. I'm going to help that kid grow. I'm going to help him grow in this offense. I'm going to teach him the game. And hey, that's what they paid you $180 million to do. You know your time is not going to be forever in the NFL. So why not help the next man come up, be, just as good as you are, if not better. And that's what quarterbacks should do. And we all know that no one likes their job to be taken. But at the end of the day, you already know Father Time is undefeated.
Oh, yeah, undefeated for sure.
And then what the NFL stand for, that not for long.
Right.
Yeah.
It all depends on you. It really all depends on you and your production and your availability.
So this springboards us into the next topic, man. We talk so much quarterback talk, but let's talk a little bit about the pass catchers, the guys that, obviously need to make the quarterback look like they're 100 million or above. But there has been a problematic spot here in Atlanta, as much of a lot of people don't want to tend to agree. But there's been a lot of failed experiences at that wide receiver number 2 spot. Sure, we went out this year and we dropped the bag on Darnell Mooney, who comes, off of a decent career in Chicago. Had his first 1,000-yard season some years ago, I believe 2021, and it's been subpar seasons from there on out. Of course, bad quarterback play or inconsistent quarterback play with play calling has probably attributed to that. But is this make or break year for the wide receiver spot number 2? What does Darnell Mooney have to do in order to really solidify his worth? I'm going to run some names off, and folks in the chat, if you remember any more, go ahead and drop them. But we've had players come through Atlanta. Brian Edwards, we traded with Las Vegas for. Van Jefferson recently. Mac Hollins. Let's see. Olamide Zaccheaus, who's now with Philadelphia or some other team. Let's see. Russell Gage. So there has been a steady number of bodies that have come through that wide receiver number 2 spot. None of them really have latched on. Darnell Mooney does come with some pedigree. What does he have to do in order to really supplant himself as wide receiver number 2 going forward? Dave, I'll go to you. Sorry, buddy.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to hear my name.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's for me, Mooney, it's kind of like the Cousins situation, right? He's stepping in. He's going to give you so much more than you're used to getting from the number 2 spot over the last couple seasons. That, to some extent, the contract, the fact that Kirk Cousins wanted him here, like, that solidifies the spot for him to begin with. And like the Falcons, used to be known for those duos. You had Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. You had Julio and Roddy. You had Peerless. Never mind. No, not that. But
Hey, Ashley Lilly, he was okay.
I apologize.
Yeah.
I had to do it. I had to do
when
it.
he went hurt.
No, go throw it, man. Go ahead.
All right, next thing you're going to tell me that you still remembered about the Byron Leftwich. He throwing the passes.
I definitely remember that, man. Boy, that was a season. But it gave us Roddy, so it gave us good Roddy. Yeah,
did.
But back to Mooney, it was not Peerless Price, thankfully. Darnell Mooney, to me, the speed is such an important thing, and you have to remember that what this offense has lacked is the ability to get the ball to speedy guys. Like maybe Scotty Miller has a very different year last year, with a more accurate quarterback that can find him. And Mooney is kind of like a super souped up version of Scotty Miller in terms of like, once that guy starts flying down the field, you're in trouble. So to me, all he has to do is play the best version of his game, and Kirk Cousins is going to be looking for him all the time. You know, we got all the guys who can win on the sidelines, who can win over the middle of the field. What you want Mooney to do is fly. And that is absolutely something that he's proven he can do. The problem has been, you know, for him as well as the Falcons and two different teams, has been the downfield accuracy, right? He didn't always get that in Chicago either. So, you know, I think if you look at the situation, like, I don't know if he'll still be here when Penix starts, but over the next couple of seasons, like the fact that, you know, Cousins lobbied to get him here and wants to use that speed, and that speed is something that's been missing from this offense, that all works in his favor. Like, I don't think, even if he's not phenomenal, like, he'll have no trouble locking down that spot, because that's what this team has needed.
Yeah.
Right.
Solid,
Yeah.
solid,
We were
solid.
talking about decline. I know he did have some declining with those Bears. Talking about it a little bit, he was tied for 125th in the league as far as getting open. All the Bears receivers, including tight ends, were ahead of him. Mac Hollins, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, all ahead of him in that order as well. And it's crazy because in 2022, he was ranked 26th. So he did have a crazy decline. I know PFF has been blaming it on Justin Fields, but we also have to talk about the wide receiver. He did come into the league his first 2 seasons, almost 1,700 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's who we're looking for. It's time for Mooney to come in and show that he just didn't have a quarterback. Show that he belongs in year 1, and then I believe in year 2, he needs to show that it's not a fluke. You know, so just like Dave was saying, like, go ahead and lock down that number 2 spot, so we're not out here in the next draft or 2 or free agency saying, man, we still looking for that number 2.
Agreed. And to close it off, man, I'm gonna just keep it real. He don't have to be super fly. I'm gonna just tell y'all like it is. As I told y'all, Kyle Pitts target number 1, Drake London target number 2. All he has to do is come through in the clutch when they need him to. If he can beat a man deep, so get him the football. If he can find a hole in the zone, sit there, get him the football. All he has to do is be a possession guy, or run out to the catch guy. If he can do that, he'll succeed. So there's no pressure really on the number 2 receiver in Atlanta. It's just about doing your job. Because as I said, Kyle Pitts is target number 1. I don't really care who wide receiver number 1 is. Kyle Pitts is the main target on his offense. I think Zach Robinson and Kirk Cousins is going to use Kyle Pitts like Matt Ryan did in his rookie year. So it's really no pressure to me on number 2. But Darnell Mooney does have to do his job. But like I said, if he comes through what he needs to, that's all we need him to do.
Definitely, man.
Get some pressure off of him, because he definitely was like considered a number 1 in Chicago. So he comes here and really at least like the 3rd option, maybe 3rd target or something like that. So hopefully it will take some pressure off of him, and that's why it's so important as well, just like we were saying.
Yeah. And you know, other 2 guys, they gonna open him up for him to make plays. So he landed in the perfect position, to be honest.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Talking about that, you know, about Kyle Pitts, which he looks much leaner. He looks a little bit more explosive now, you know, from the little clips that we've seen. It's in shorts and helmets, but hey, listen, we'll take that any day of the week. We'll take that, you know, Kyle Pitts style any day of the week. But do we see now Kyle Pitts, you know, being used in this offense at a more traditional style? We saw how the Rams utilized their tight ends last year, you know, which really was lined up closest to the tackle in a natural tight end spot. Sometimes in the slot, but primarily, you know, what's his name? Gerald Everett, I think it is that the Rams had.
Yeah, Gerald Everett.
Yeah, very very productive. Why, you know? Excuse me.
No. It's
Tyler
Higbee.
Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee. That's correct. Right. Yep. So do we see Kyle Pitts kind of going back to that 2021 form where he was used exclusively at the tight end position? I know that he was split out like so many snaps, like 280 snaps on the outside. He was all over the place, but of course we had some receiver problems in that year as well, so we needed to utilize him in the best way possible. But now with so many weapons here in Atlanta, could we see Kyle Pitts now just used as a traditional tight end to really do his work in the middle? Because he has the frame, he has the speed, he's a mismatch nightmare. could Zach Robinson now say, okay, we're going to deploy him in this fashion, and we're going to regain that Pro Bowl fashion Kyle Pitts that we had in 2021?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Sky is the limit. I'm trying to tell you, man. As long as a healthy Kyle Pitts, man, you can use him anywhere. He's that type of athlete. How long have we been talking about this unicorn? You know, this is the time to open this up. Use him everywhere. Put him everywhere because he's big enough to be a mismatch anywhere on the field, through the middle, going down the seam, whatever. Just use Kyle Pitts because we're ready to see what we saw back in his rookie season. He's more of a veteran, understands more schemes, more zones. I expect more production. Guys. Let's get Kyle Pitts that football, man. Come on, y'all.
And I'm gonna keep it simple again. I think we got to use him like Detroit use Megatron. Just give him the football by any means necessary. Line him up, slot, line him up, X, in line, whatever you got to do. Line him up at an H-back if you have to get a mismatch on the linebacker or safety. But use him like Megatron. You're going to throw the ball up, he's going to go get it. Just like Randy Moss used to say, chunk it up there. That's all you got to do. So if he gets open, hey, get him the football. All the rest of that route running and all that, as long as he can beat his defender, get him the football. Because guess what? 83-inch wingspan, he going to get the football some way.
That's true.
And
what you got
as
there?
a quarterback, you can put it in the right place. I'm just saying, guys, ball placement is very important into this.
And he got two quarterbacks that can do that. Two quarterbacks.
Exactly. Who can spin it whichever way you want. Spin it right, spin it left. But they can get the football to the receivers, man. And that's something that we needed. Something that we needed.
And that's
do y'all think ball
it.
placement was the reason that also got Kyle Pitts hurt that season against the Bears? Do y'all think ball placement was a part of that?
Oh, 100%, man. I hate to chuckle and say that it's because the person that was throwing the goddamn ball is the reason why I chuckle. But yes, I think it was, man. I mean, you don't throw the ball at the knees at a guy that's 6'6", 6'7", man. You got to throw it right at the numbers, or in a spot where he can only go and get it. But
he didn't be able to protect himself. My goodness.
Yeah, he did him no favors. But Dave, I know you wanted to say something there before Chris started. If you want to get to that, please.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with Chris. The ball placement piece, I think it was each of the last two seasons. Like, he had more inaccurate passes thrown to him than like any other receiver in football. Like, it's uncanny. Like, you're talking about a guy you couldn't miss, if you tried, and yet they kept missing him. So, that's the change right here. You can line him up outside and kick Mooney inside. That'd be interesting to me, especially if they're not viewing Casey Washington, which I don't think they are, somebody who's ready to kick outside and get starter snaps right away, maybe down the line.
I think so.
But to Smitty's point, no matter where you line him up, like, this is a guy who should be able to win his matchups. It's time to see that happen. But more importantly, it's time to get him the ball in a way that makes sense, right? Like, don't make 6'6" guy leap up in the air for something you've thrown 3 feet over his head. Don't make him scoop it off the ground. We know Cousins can get him the ball where he wants it, and we know that he can win these contested catch opportunities because of the size, the speed, the strength. So it's just time to see it happen. I don't care where he lines up. You can have him out of the backfield. Just get him the ball on schedule, and the rest will follow. 100%.
You mentioned Casey Washington, very intriguing wide receiver. We took him in the 6th round. A lot of folks expected the Falcons to address that position in the earlier round, but obviously with Darnell Mooney coming into town, Rondale Moore, obviously, that we got in that Ritter trade, kind of know that plan. But Casey Washington, what are your thoughts on him? Do you feel like he can tag on to this team? I'm going to say this real quick. I've watched a lot of his tape. I like what this kid brings. I think he could bring a tenacity and toughness to that wide receiver 2 spot that we haven't seen in a while. I viewed him as a bigger Jarvis Landry because of the way that he moves. He doesn't have that excellent top line speed, but he just does all the little things right. He does them fairly well, right? We saw a couple passes thrown to him now in camp and stuff like that. And again, it's just helmet and short. But the body control, the hands, it's all there. I think Casey Washington can probably turn some heads now going into training camp. But I'd like to get your thought on Casey Washington quick. Dave.
Yeah, I think he's an interesting guy. I keep looking at the Rams to see like what kind of players are you trying to import, and I can see Casey Washington in their minds being kind of like diet caffeine free Cooper Cup, right? Like just the the budget version of Cooper Cup. They're about the same size. The hands are there. So that's really what you're looking for, I think. And, expecting a 6th-round rookie to be like a major contributor right away. No, but I think A, he's going to make this roster, and B, Rondale Moore's only here for 1 year. You know that you're going to be using him out of the slot. Again, what happens when you want to kick Darnell Mooney inside? Are you going to use Pitts, sort of outside opposite London, or are you considering somebody like Hodge or Washington as your option there? And I think Washington does have that opportunity in those specific scenarios in year 1 to get on the field, and then maybe things open up for him from there. But I do think the more that I've looked at him, the more I think there's probably something there. Just I think they looked at both him and McClellan, totally different position, but these are two well-rounded guys who can do a little bit of everything pretty well, and I think that's important.
And another little tidbit, I think 700 receptions for his collegiate career, only 3 drops, if I'm not mistaken. That's highly impressive, man. So for a guy like Casey Washington, man, hands is no shortage with him there, man. So he's got him aplenty. But
I give you a quick thought, man. One guy that he reminds me of, and he's a former 6th-round pick as well, and he's a former Falcon. And that's Terrence Mathis. And y'all remember when he came over from the Jets? He really hadn't done much with the Jets, but when he got to Atlanta in the right offense, had a 100-yard catch his very first season, Pro Bowl. So if he can come in, do what he needs to do, and be that possession receiver that Kirk Cousins needs, he'll get the throws his way. But like I said, with the other 3 guys, those guys, they're going to be on the forefront. But if he can come in, get those timely catches, possession receptions, first down type receptions, I think that puts him easily on the 53-man roster, and we'll see preseason exactly what he can do. So if he can do that, hey, I could see him making the team.
I like that comparison.
Again, we still have Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball too, so it's always a better quarterback. It's always a better quarterback, better accuracy that we got to think about too. It's great, man. Great.
Very solid, man. So let's switch dials, man. We talked about, the quarterbacks and wide receivers, man. Let's turn the page now onto the defense. Of course, the defense is being remade once again under now Jimmy Lake and Coach Raheem Morris. Gone are the days of Ryan Nielsen and company. Insert Jimmy Lake, a first-year coordinator. But he does have Coach Ra, who they were together with the Rams last year. So they know what they want in Atlanta. They know what style of players, to scheme fit what they're trying to do here in Atlanta. And a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't be really drafting for scheme, but it is kind of important if you really want to, trot out your vision and be successful in certain areas, third down defense or your third down, fourth down defense, first and second, what packages, you have for these guys to, schematically, be in positions to make the best plays possible. Right. So with the 8th pick, of course, we took Michael Penix, which was bah humbug for a lot of the fan base. Until the dust settled and we realized that was the damn pick, that was the right pick. But sitting there was the guys like Dallas Turner and Latayu Latu, Jared Verse, Byron Murphy's, the whole upper echelon of defensive guys. But we ended up taking guys back to back in a 3-peat fashion. Rook, Braylon Trice, and Brandon Dorless, man, out of Oregon. So my question, gentlemen, is, with this influx of newly found talent through the draft, to go on to the guys that we have already, and David Onyemata, Zach Harrison, who came on strong last year for the Falcons, David Onyemata, who is, like Coach Raheem said, he and Grady are still playing at a very high and elite level on this Falcons team and around the NFL. Is this the most talented line rotation that the Falcons have trotted out in recent memory? Dave, I defer to you, my friend.
Yeah, I was going back and trying to see like what the most reasonable like comparison would be. It's probably like 2004 when you had Patrick Kearney, Travis Hall, some depth there, and then if you go back way further, you go back to like Claude Humphrey, John Zook, Mike Lewis, like that was a great line, but that's the early 70s, mid 70s. So they haven't had a lot of groups of talent. Like it's been the John Abraham show, or it's been like, and Jonathan Babineau. I never want to leave him out, but
Of course,
or it's
Babineau.
been, yeah, the USS Babineau, or it's been, Grady Jarrett doing the very best he can. So in terms of like pure talent, even if, some guys are old, some guys are young, you got to mix and match that way. I think it's got to be up there. And I know that's a commentary on the Falcons themselves and what they've done along the defensive line, but it's also exciting because there's some good players here. Like obviously Jarrett is, phenomenal. Onyemata is great. And I think even the depth, now that you've drafted these guys that you expect to have major roles, Graham and London as like potentially deep depth, like back end of the roster type guys. Like a year ago, they were pulling starter snaps because they had to. So
Absolutely,
this is a lot deeper than it used to be. And, some things have to go right, but I like this group a lot. I really do.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. But that 98 Super Bowl defensive line, to me, one of the better rotation we've ever had. You talk about Lester Archambault, Chuck Smith, Shane Dronette, who was a veteran, had been in the league for a while. So that defensive line rotation to me was the best. But with what they've added and the way they did it is the way I like, is because you have Onyemata and Grady, who's probably going towards the end of their contract, towards their last contract. And they may resign for less money, but you have young guys that they can teach in this system, and they can learn from consummate pros, and that's what I love about it. Because Dorless and Braylon Trice, both of those guys at their respective positions were two of the top guys when it came to pressures in college football the last 3 years. So that lets you know they can get to the quarterback, and to learn from somebody like Grady, somebody from like a David Onyemata, who's been very underrated, might I add, when he was in New Orleans.
He was.
Lorenzo Carter, I can go on and on. They have the right guys to teach these young guys. And even we talk about Ruque. We didn't like the pick, but guess what? He has better physical upside than those other two guys. So when you talk about an athlete at the defensive tackle position that plays with power, just like Grady, it was a no-brainer. So I like this rotation. I like what they did. And, like I said, the media wanted their narrative. We got the defensive end we needed.
Right.
They wanted. So I think it was a great fit because, like I said, scheme is everything. You draft for your scheme, no problems. Because guess what? They going to know the system 9 times out of 10 is just different communication in the way they, call plays. That's the only difference.
Right. And I ain't gonna lie, about taking a row, I was not on board at first. I'm like, why are we moving up to get him? But of course, we have to settle down, wait for a few days, sometimes a few weeks. Stories come out, and then you hear the story about Johnny Newton and how he's gonna have to have surgery, same injury, different foot. So that's another reason why we probably went with a row. And honestly, I like him, and I've been watching some old film. Watching some of him move, he has some shades of John Randall. And honestly, if we can get anything half of that, it'll be a great pick. I think Dorless and Trice, I think those two guys are going to be monsters for us, man. I really do. I think those guys are going to be battling for the sack to try to see who's going to have the most sacks on the team. Good rotational depth. Don't sleep on Zion. I think he's a big run stopper. And he's going to be into the mix as well. I really do like him. So when we had picked him up at the end, I was like, say what? It wasn't necessarily just a dog. Of course, go Dogs. But at the same time, it was the player that it was and plugging him into this system. So agreeing with Smitty, agreeing with Dave, I do like this rotation. I know we were saying about recent memory. Y'all guys went back. As far as I went back, was probably the closest thing was maybe 2016. We had a nice little line going on there where we had Beasley and Campbell and Debo. What Freeney was here, Babs was still here, Claiborne. So as far as names go, we had some people going. But on paper, this may be one of the most talented bunches we've had for real. And I can't wait to see them get out.
One quick tidbit: I know Brandon Dorless is gonna bring it. He's been training with Chuck Smith for a while, So
Mhm.
he already has the pedigree and what they expect in Atlanta. So trust me, he's gonna do his thing. But quick shout out, man, to Antoine Wartime TV, man. Day his birthday, man. Happy birthday to you, my guy.
Hey, happy
Hey,
birthday,
Bitch, you
Antoine.
always
Appreciate you
tuning
coming through,
in.
brother.
But
Absolutely. Well,
go
since
ahead.
we're talking about these up and coming rooks, Dave, is there one guy in particular you're head over heels for, man? What is it Rook? Is it Braylon Trice? Is it Brandon Dorlus? Is it Zion? Which one of these guys you feel like is going to have an immediate impact for our Falcons?
Yeah, I think it's Rook.
Great question.
And I look at him. I was talking to Aaron Freeman over on Locked On Falcons a little bit earlier today.
Shout
hey,
out
shout
to
out
him.
to Aaron.
Yeah. And I said, if you look at Rook and like there's, NFL's littered with these guys. Like if they just figure it out, they're going to be special. He's one of those guys. I don't know that he's going to figure it all out, but the
Mhm.
talent's there, the coaching staff is there, the role's going to be there. They've already said they want to put him in a position to succeed. They'll move him around, try to give him opportunities. Like to me, the talent here, the ability, the strength is so tantalizing. Like this is a guy that if he starts putting this stuff together, if he has like the Zach Harrison arc, where in the last quarter of the season that light comes on, I think he's going to be fantastic. So he's the guy that I view as potentially the key to this whole draft. If he works out and Penix hits, everything else is kind of a gravy at that point. So I really do like him.
Agree.
You guys,
I got to go with Ruke too. Because as I've said, man, I'm looking at his versatility more than anything. He can play a 3-4 end, especially on rundowns, or he can, relieve Grady or relieve David. And he's probably going to get more snaps than the other two guys, to be honest, because with Grady, now this could extend his career as well. Because you talk about Ruke, you talk about Brandon Dorlus. Both of those guys can help Grady extend his career in Atlanta. But Ruke, with his versatility, moving up and down the line with his power, I got to say him, man, because I think Braylon, even though he's played under Jimmy Lake at Washington, he really has the advantage. But I think with the way Ruke plays, man, I think he's going to be a beast.
Yeah.
Smitty, I'm gonna go ahead and piggyback on this one too, but then we're gonna shift gears to a question we have in the chat by Boss Tucker. But my guy, man, and Chris, you and we've been heavy on this guy. I've been on Brandon Dorlus since January 25th. The minute that I popped tape on Oregon and I saw this kid just keep flashing, I was like, Jesus Christ, there's our Kobe Turner right there. And the more and more you watched him, and the more you saw how Oregon really displayed his measurables, his size, his speed for a big guy at 6'3", I said, man, he'd be a perfect centerpiece for the Falcons defense and a guy that could possibly supplant, Grady down the line. Father of Time, as we all mentioned, is undefeated. Everybody's not built to last long, but you bring in a kid like Dorlus that exemplifies a lot of what Grady does now, and living in the backfield it's primarily what he does. Is just lives in the backfield. The kid is so disruptive, right? Disruptive, excuse me. I think he finished in college football as one of the most disruptive interior defensive linemen in the country. So Brandon Dorlus for me is the guy that I think on limited snaps, I think can come in and have that Kobe Turner style sack outputage or that style of of impact on the defense. Chris, I know that you've been high on him too. What do you say about Brandon Dorlus? Or would that be your guy as one of the trio that we just mentioned to be one of the guys that take over?
Berto, you already know, you were first. And I remember you were speaking about it in the chat about you spoke about a Dorlus kid, and you spoke about a bunch of names, but then just going to go look at Dorlus, and it's just like you said, as soon as you pop on the tape, it's like first play, you like, oh, it's just, and Dorlus, he's that type of player. I'm sticking with Dorlus. I'm riding with Dorlus. I think he's going to be great, man. You can put him anywhere. He can line up anywhere. Defensive end, defensive tackle. He even played some nose tackle, only a little bit, but he still was there. So that just shows versatility. He's going to be all over the place, and like Berto said, he lives in the backfield, and that's where I want him to be. I want him to go ahead and make him a pallet right there by the quarterback. That's where I want him to be. For real. seriously, guys, I'm going with Brandon Dorless, and I believe that Trice, him being out there as well, is going to be another guy that can kind of open things up for Dorless. I believe they're going to work off each other. They're going to open these up because both of these guys get after the quarterback, but I'm high on Dorless, and I'm staying right there. Pretty much Dorless is tied to our careers now.
Pretty much.
Cool, very cool, man. Well, Smith, we got a question here by Boss Tucker, man. Appreciate you always tuning in, giving us your honest opinion and feedback, and for dropping this question as well. He said, Smitty and Berto, give honest opinion on defense. I want Chris and Dave to also chime in on this, please. But Smitty, I'll defer to you first. Your opinion on the defense, brother.
What they've added this offseason, I actually think they upgraded. Like I always say, man, coaching is going to be key to unlocking this defense. And the key to that is Jerry Gray. Him being here last year with Ryan Nielsen, knows what he likes to run, and I think he had part to do with that. And him being a defensive coordinator in this league for such a long time. And y'all remember those Buffalo Bills defense of the early 2000s, who was always top 3, top 4 of the league. He just brings that kind of passion when he coaches, and it's going to rub off on these players. And we all know the cornerback room is pretty young, but if you instill a pass rush, you take pressure off them, and then you have a veteran Jesse Bates on the backside to help these young guys. So I think they have everything in place on this defense to continue what they did last year. So I absolutely love what they've done on defense.
Yeah, the Rams last year finished with 41 sacks, same output as the Atlanta Falcons did. And I think that the Rams defense really had only one household name. I don't think that they drafted Bryant Young and Kobe Turner and say, okay, these guys are going to get and make the impact that we all thought that they were going to have. 9 and 8 sacks respectively. Aaron Donald is Aaron Donald, but really traditionally that's the only household name on that defense, and they played fairly well. Now you talk about a Falcons defense that now inherits Coach Ralph, of course, and Jimmy Lake. Not to mention brings in guys, headhunters like Rook, Brandon, and Braylon. I think they can take that same culture that they had with the Rams and just infuse it here in Atlanta and come out with more. I really view this possibly as a top 10 defense, man. I think the front 7 has solidified by leaps and bounds. And I know that, losing Ryan Nielsen and all the great things that he brought for us, really elevated our third down defense, finishing, I think, in the top 4 or 5 in that category. Red zone defense again, in that same breath. Do I feel like they're going to take a step back in certain categories? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think this Falcons team on defense is going to pitch a no-hitter by no stretch of the imagination, but they will be competitive. They will be tough, and I think they'll be up in that top 10, man, with all these guys brought in, and especially how Coach Raheem and Jimmy Lake displayed their own guys out last year with the Rams. I think he has a better core to work with here in Atlanta. I think, and the sky's the limit for this defense, and it's going to be trending up.
Indeed. Hey, man, well, just a few things that I think about it. The defense, I was worried at first because we lost Ryan Nielsen, just the fact that he came in and the job that he was able to do with this defense. It's been so long since we even had anything close to a top 10 defense, and Ryan was able to bring that. But the key component there was the fact that we did keep Jimmy Lake. Not Jimmy Lake. We did Jerry Gray. And if we had lost Jerry Gray, now I don't know how I would feel about it. But Jerry Gray, he's going to be able to help Jimmy Lake. He's going to be able to see some things that Jimmy may not see, because Jimmy is a first-time, NFL head coach and defensive coordinator. Should I say defensive coordinator, first year. So you got to understand he's going to have some ups and downs. With the talent that we brought in, I don't think we take a step back. If we didn't make some major moves in this draft the way that we did, I was kind of concerned, but now I'm feeling more confident moving forward. I could just say that. Definitely way more confident. Dave, what you say?
Yeah, I think the defensive front I probably feel better about than I did a year ago, just because it's deeper. I think you're missing maybe some of that veteran ability on the edges, but Braylon Trice, I think, kind of comes in as a ready-made pass rusher who's going to be pretty productive right out of the gate. I feel good about him. Line certainly deeper. We saw how bad things got last year when Jarrett and Onyemata were down at the same time. Falcons were digging deep. That's not a problem anymore. And I think like Ebiketti's going to take a step forward. I don't know how significant that is, but we're kind of sleeping on him a little bit. We're kind of not talking at all about D'Angelo Malone, who I think with the switch back to this group may well be productive. And the inside linebacker group, adding Bertrand to an already very good group, like front seven is in pretty good shape. My question marks are all on the back end of the defense, and that's where this coaching staff with Raheem Morris, having a defensive backs coach background, Jimmy Lake, same thing, Jerry Gray, same thing. Like that's what you're counting on, is that you're going to be able to take Clark Phillips, who's obviously talented. I love Clark Phillips. Coach him up, get the best out of Richie Grant, continue, to bring DeMarco Helms along, hopefully get, D. Alford back on track after. I still don't understand why he was benched at the end of last year, honestly, but talent's there. Yeah. So, I have some concerns, like, are all of those pieces going to come together? I think that might be a limiting factor for them. But to their credit, they've got a lot of young, talented guys, and they feel they got the coaching staff for it. So, yeah, I don't expect any major steps back. If this ends up being like a 16-20 style defense with the offensive improvement that we're expecting, Falcons will be in great shape. So and if it does end up being top 10, like, you're not going to hear me complain.
Yeah, man. You're not.
No, and to take from the presser earlier, and I if I misquoted him, I do apologize, but when talking about Clark Phillips, Coach Rod did mention elite movement, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they're pretty high on Clark Phillips, which may have led to on the decision to pass on several cornerbacks in this year's draft, which was a loaded and deep group. But, in rounds 2 through 6, the Falcons just their style of players and really ignored the secondary. So I think they might be confident in this group's ability, having holdovers like Jerry Gray, having holdovers like the defensive analyst that came from Alabama, who's still with us. Jesus,
Dave Huxtable.
Yeah, Dave Huxtable as well does help, because this is continuity that Jerry Gray and Huxtable have already with these guys, AJ Terrell and the Clark Phillips, the whole secondary. I'm not going to name everybody there. So, hey, who knows? Of course, they know more than we do. So maybe there was a reason why they looked past corner. But, hey, who knows, man? It could all work out.
And don't forget, Clark Phillips is a physical corner, even though he's small in stature. Like, he's no pushover at all. And if you guys have been seeing how he's been looking at OTAs, he looks more jacked than he did in his rookie season. So he's definitely coming out more stronger. I didn't know he was going to make that much of an improvement. So I feel definitely a lot more confident now, because he's not going to be a pushover. He already knows he has to make up for his height, and he's going to do it, I believe. So I like Clark Phillips. And also look out for Zach Harrison, man. I'm expecting some big things out of Zach, man. I really believe that at the end of last year he was trending up in the right direction. And he's going to be a good player, man, along with Abracady. I'm going to still have some faith in Abracady as well, man.
And I'm starting to see right now, as we move forward, why they did not take a corner in the draft, because they brought in 2 veteran guys, and they have a guy in today for a workout, Jerry Jacobs, who played with the Lions last year, 55 tackles and 3 interceptions. So they can get a rookie to come in and play behind these young guys. I'm sorry, veterans,
and he's from here.
Come in and play behind these young guys. I think that's all they need, and if they trust Clark Phillips like we think they do, and he can be that guy, man, him and AJ could be a nice duo for the next 5 years if AJ resigns.
Yeah, I'm gonna respectfully decline on bringing Jacobs here, man. I mean, he had a great season for Detroit last year, but as the season progressed, you really started to see the struggles in his game, which ultimately led to him being benched and have his job overtaken. Really struggled in that zone-heavy scheme that the Lions over there with Aaron Glenn, but 66% that he allowed in completion, over 107 quarterback rating. We don't need that. We definitely don't. So
I think he would be a rotational guy. He would be a rotational guy.
Potentially. I mean, maybe trust him over Mike Hughes.
We still got Hughes.
Well, I think Antonio Hamilton is underrated too. He's not a
Yes,
name
he
that
is.
anybody
He is.
knows, but he was solid
Yeah.
last year. So you've already got your
Other
Clark
guy.
Phillips insurance, we'll call it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yep, other guy
we're
from
gonna move on now to our last part of the show, in which a lot of folks kind of already know the breaking rumor. But beforehand, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat. And Jack Spade, if you're still in here, please advocate this as well. This has a lot to do with what him and Thomas are doing for the Rise Up tour. So
Right,
the link is there. If you're a Falcons fan and you love traveling to away games, please do not hesitate on following the link in the chat, man. It's for the Rise Up tour. I know that they're having some specials currently. I believe some end tonight at midnight, if I'm not mistaken. Jack, if you're in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong. But what a way to connect with Falcon fans all across the world and make new and exciting memories by attending these away games. And the Rise Up tour can definitely provide that. So please, the link is in the chat. Go ahead and become part of something that's a major movement in Atlanta and steadily growing year in and year out. I know I talk a lot to Jack, and he's gushing over excitement as this group is growing year by year. So, fans, if you guys want that ultimate fan experience for the Atlanta Falcons, I highly recommend and suggest you go ahead and sign up for the Rise Up tour, which is currently happening right now. That will springboard us into the breaking rumor news that has been hitting the circa for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. You know, schedule release
about
is
2
coming
hours.
out tomorrow, thank God. And I know that a lot of these games will probably be leaked throughout the day tomorrow until that 7 o'clock drop time. But one game that's being rumored heavily for week one is the return of Arthur Smith to the
Yeah.
Benz week one, as the Falcons will host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Fellas, man, we just got rid of this guy and they're already welcoming him back with open arms. Week one matchup, Arthur Smith's return to the Benz. What is the outcome? How you guys feeling? Are you guys excited about this potentially being the week one matchup? Dave, I defer to you, my friend.
Yeah, I'm excited and I'm also apprehensive. I think they'll win that game. I do think they could beat the Steelers. Obviously, if they lose that game, it's going to be nasty. So
Boy.
get me out of there at that point.
We can't lose that game.
Yeah, but it's from like a storyline perspective. You understand why they did it. Like Arthur Smith coming back. This is probably two
Petty
of the
ass move
quarterbacks.
by the NFL, man.
Yes, it is. But it's two of the quarterback situations that have changed the most in the NFL. You have a new number one and number two guy in both of these places. Steelers, it's a little bit of a redemption thing where it's like, we know Mike Tomlin's a great coach, but they've struggled to get this offense right for so long. Is Arthur Smith the guy? He's trying to redeem himself after what happened in Atlanta. Falcons are trying to come back after 6 straight losing seasons. They have a chance to go to 1-0 against their former head coach and his 17 tight ends. And so, it's an opportunity, I think, for a lot of good things to happen. Again, I think the Falcons can win that game because, again, they have a more talented offense. I respect the Steelers defense. It'll be a stiff challenge week one, but it's a winnable game. It's a nice way to start the season. For 1 week at least, not everybody's going to be talking about Penix the entire game, which would be kind of a nice change of pace. So,
facts. Jack, I just text you the link to your phone so you can check your phone, and you'll see the link in your phone. But I would love to see Arthur Smith here, and like I said, it's petty, and we talked about it earlier before the show. Berto brought it up actually while we were talking earlier and said, "Wouldn't that be petty if they done that?" And guess what? They did it.
So they ended up doing it, dude.
Kind of figured it was going to be something like that. I wanted the Steelers, though.
It's all about money at the end of the day. We know it. But it's a good thing because if he coached that offense like he did ours, I think it's a week one victory. And how many times you see us beat the Steelers?
Not often.
No.
So,
and we were talking before we even went on air. I'm like, watch Cousins will throw for a flawless quarterback rating or have a flawless quarterback rating throw for 300 plus yards, but all will get overshadowed by Arthur Smith returning to Atlanta. So we definitely got to put our A game forward and really beat the brakes off of the Steelers, man. A reeling team that is, like Smitty was mentioning, man, an offense that struggled to really take off under, I think, Canada was the name of the offensive coordinator last year in Pittsburgh. Really
Matt
couldn't do
Canada.
anything.
Yeah, Matt Canada.
Yeah, really couldn't do anything with an influx of talent. Sure, Arthur Smith comes with a Tennessee Titan pedigree. That's as far as I'll leave it, because in Atlanta he really didn't showcase, that style of offense he displayed there. So it'll be interesting
But
to
hey,
see
he had
how
this
he reinvents himself, so to say. I his best thing would have been just to take a year off of coaching, really
man.
reinvent himself, because he's left a bad name in a lot of within this organization and across the league. Like, man, they hired this guy prematurely. They really just went off of a couple good statistical years that other guys made him look good offensive wise. But it'll be interesting to see what he does with a vet like Russell Wilson and guys like George Pickens and whoever they have at running back, because it feels like they have 1,000 running backs over in Pittsburgh. But yeah, man, it'll be exciting. I'm excited for if this is the week 1 matchup. We have a lot to play for, obviously, in front of the Ben's home opener. If it is that, well, it's going to be that. But just to prove it to Arthur Smith, like, man, this is what you lost, man. This is what you could have potentially had, man. So it's your loss, brother.
I wanted the Steelers week 1 anyway, just so we can go ahead and get this game out the way. Go ahead and face off against Dr. Robotnik and Arthur Smith, man, with his mustache and everything else in all his glory. Just go ahead and just get it out the way, man. I want to pummel these guys. I want a physical AJ Terrell going against George Pickens, man. I wouldn't even mind seeing AJ Terrell pick one off on the Steelers sideline, old school style, like Deion Sanders saying, "Look what you lost."
Sweet serenity.
I want to take these guys down. I need hold on, Future. I am talking to you, sir.
Oh God,
I need you and all the Goonies at the game, week 1, just so we can go ahead and throw Russell Wilson off of his. I want every advantage because I want to win this game. I want to pummel these guys. There's so many storylines that it's going to go so many different ways. Since they're being petty, we're going to stack on top of the petty. Future, we need y'all down there, right there on the field level, in the little press boxes or whatever down there. We need all that going on. The Ben's going to be rocking. No one really misses Arthur Smith. I say no one really, because I have heard a little chirping about, guys missing Arthur Smith, in the background. But I'm ready to beat these guys down. I'm ready to go ahead and get our redemption against the evil Dr. Robotnik and Arthur Smith and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You played too much Sonic the Hedgehog as a kid.
Oh, man, we knuckles. What you talking about? We knuckles. We knuckles this year, baby. We are knuckles this year, baby. Seriously. He said Sierra going to be in the sweet corn. RJ, boy.
RJ's a fool, man.
RJ,
add on anything, brother?
Man, for real, bring them out. We got to make them feel uncomfortable more than anything else. I want everybody that comes through the bins this season to feel very uncomfortable. This is not what it used to be. Going forward, we're gonna be in here. We're gonna be taking care of business, and I want our Falcon faithful to go out here and make these fans feel unwelcome. Make them want to sell those tickets because they just don't even want to go in there and be with the crowd. That's the kind of environment we need to start making these fans feel. They coming on here like they on vacation. It's time to stop that. You come in here, you may leave with a shiner. That's how we. That's the kind of
a damn bully, man.
That's what I need, man. I'm just saying we've been pushovers for so long. We need to push back.
I hear that, man. I hear
Yeah,
that. But, man,
definitely.
100%.
this has been tremendous. We're coming up on this hour mark, man. We definitely would like to take the time to thank everybody that has come through tonight in the chat.
Hold on one second.
Vinny, go ahead, brother. Go ahead, bro.
I don't want to be rude. Dave,
No, go
you have
right
any
ahead.
more questions before we get out of here? Any more things you want to talk about?
No, just I like what you said there, Chris, about like let's be the bullies. Let's make people uncomfortable. Like let's feel like this is a home field advantage from the energy level that everybody's bringing to this. Like, we're all tired of losing. The franchise is tired of losing. Raheem Morris is coming in here. He had to work way too long and way too hard to get a head coaching job again for this thing to go south. Like, I just want to see them beat the brakes off some teams. And like, if year one is just playoffs, just the NFC South after 6 years without the playoffs. Like, give me that, but make it feel great. Make it feel like we are a team on the rise, that this is a team that can put other teams in their place. And let's kick it off with the Steelers. That'd be great.
Oh, yeah. In the words of the great Jim Ross, we need to have teams running like a scalded dog.
Amen. Amen to that.
Where the hell did you get that from?
Hey, man. Oh, you ain't never heard that one?
You sure
Swallow knocker, but not that shit.
Oh, yeah, boy. Hey, man, I used to watch wrestling, man. That's all I'm saying.
I know. I feel it, man. I'm still a diehard, fam.
And my favorite one was boots to asses. That's what I like. Boots to asses.
Oh,
yeah.
You got to have.
That was fun. Yeah, that's what we got to do.
That's better. That's crazy, man. But, man, Dave, you want to tell the folks any up and coming things that we can all expect on the Falcoholics? Because I know that this platform follows the Falcoholics. I know the folks in the chat also follow the Falcoholics. Any news, any exciting things you guys gonna venture into? I know we mentioned it's gonna be sort of a dry spell, but anything that you guys are currently working on that you want to let the fans know, please, the floor is yours. Let us all know what you guys got going on.
Yeah, for sure. As always, I'll plug our live show with Kevin Knight, Adnan and the gang, which is tomorrow night at 8. Every week they bring it, no matter what's going on. Sometimes nothing. They still make it work, just like you guys do. Awesome stuff. Yeah, and then on our end, I think we're going to dip into Falcons history pretty soon because it's hitting the summer. I enjoy doing that. It's fun to remember some guys, but at the moment, going through each position group on the roster, starting with special teams tomorrow, and breaking down how things have changed, whether that's a good thing, a bad thing. And it was kind of fun to start with special teams because nobody's really talking about it, but just the upgrade to the return game over whatever Mike Hughes was doing back there this year. Sorry, Mike Hughes, is a good thing to me.
So we have a surprise person in the chat. He says, "Wait, this is the guy from the Falcoholics, and I love their shows." Da, that is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Dave. So, are you chief editorial writer for the Falcoholics?
Yeah, since 2006 now. It's been a long time. So
man,
yeah.
Ooh, man, 18 years.
Damn, bro.
That's a long time.
I love that.
I'm just gonna see my resume, Dave. You just look over and so you have to come in.
Send it on over, man. Send it on. 100%.
Man. But man, folks, shout out to everybody again, man, in the chat. Thank you so very much for always coming out on a Tuesday night at 8:00 prime time to support your boys, man, and definitely rock out with us, man. We hope that we have delivered the best show that we possibly could for the fans. Dave, thank you so much again for taking time off of your busy schedule and coming to join us, man. That's Dave from the Falcoholics. But I'm going to defer now to Chris. Chris, let us know anything that you got up and coming, things that you're working on, and when's the next time we can find you on the YouTube space?
Well, to be honest, man, I plan on making myself very busy. I don't have to deal with school, so that's one thing that's, I have more free time. So I definitely plan on hitting this YouTube. Definitely plan on pushing A1 Forever Sports. Definitely plan on being on lives with you guys. Great guests like Dave. Sports doesn't stop, man. Sports is really year round. So it's like one of those jobs to where like you just kind of got to pick your spots where you're going to take a break and everything because it doesn't stop. So why should we? Definitely the Atlanta Hawks, they got some intriguing things going on. #1 pick. So we're definitely going to be talking about that. People are worried about the Braves in May, but I don't know why. But, we're going to talk about that. So we got some things coming, man. Got some collabs coming around. Definitely don't mind collaborating with anybody, talking sports. I'll talk sports with anybody. So looking forward to that.
You long-winded too, so you will talk.
Hey, man, I will.
Wow.
Sometimes I do get a little long-winded. I've been working on keeping things more concise, but I feel like that also shows my passion, man, because I got a lot to say and everything, man. So I'm
bro.
To meet each and every one of you guys. Grateful for the people in the chat. I have nothing to be be ungrateful about. This has been a journey, and that's what it's all about. Enjoying the journey, enjoying the moment. So come on over to A1 Forever Sports. Be a part of the A1 family.
Yep, man. I'm gonna stay on your behind till you get to the top the way you're supposed to be at.
But y'all appreciate it.
Y'all know where to find me, man. Smitty Sports Machine on YouTube. Twitter FatBoySlim_21. You see it right there on the screen. That's where you find me at on Twitter because I'm always blowing up Twitter because that's what I do. But again, thanking Dave for coming out talking to us, man. Trust me, we got to do this again during the season, man, because we like to collab with other collaborators. So that's what we do, man. We love to talk sports. And to y'all in the chat, thank y'all for always supporting your boy, supporting this crew, supporting the Falcoholic. Trust me, we appreciate it. But as always, man, Berto, take us out, man.
Yes, sir. But before that, this is your boy Berto, your host of the 95 North Falcons Talk Show. That's the show on YouTube. I will be on tomorrow night on Bleacher Report, talking about the schedulees, giving wins and loss predictions. So you can find me on there, 95 North Berto on Bleacher Report. So you can find that at 8 o'clock or sooner. Because if I get that schedule leak, I'm going live before it becomes official at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. But that's the next time you can find me. And I'm sure that myself, Smitty, and Chris, and RJ ATL for Life, shout out the plug, man, that we're going to have, we're going to be brewing up something, relatively or in comparison to the schedule that's coming out. So be on the lookout for that. But until then, man, we will give you your Tuesday night back. Thank you so very much for joining us. Dave, again, thank you so very much for stopping through. For your boy Berto, Chris, Smitty, and Dave, we will catch y'all soon, man. And peace.